Bubblee pop. In a world of bubbles, the bubbly with two E's is king, I guess, or queen. The gender of these like round freaks here that use in the game it's unclear. So this is a game inspired by, oh, you know, those games where you throw bubbles or let bubbles drop or other kinds of items and you're forming lines. When there's a line, they disappear, more things fall, and you create more combos. You must have played some of those or know somebody who did, and now you have the board game, or saying it is the analog version, which I have to say really nice components. And now you're thinking, well, why would I want to play a board game that I had to set up and in which I have to move things around instead of having a little computer, having a program and my phone doing all that work for me? Yes, it's more work to make the game work, to move the components around, but I personally find it really fun, and I find it fun to manipulate these components. These tokens are very good quality, thick and nice, and just looks great. And sometimes you want to take a break from the screen. Sometimes you're playing with your kids and you want to limit their screen time. So there are definitely reasons why video games are not necessarily provide you the best experience, even though they may be more efficient from the point of view of the way they function. But then again, the experience of playing a physical game is different, and sometimes you want that one instead. Now, the board is divided in three areas. A central area is called the sky, and then you have two planets, a planet on this side and a planet on the other side of the board. I haven't set up that one yet, but just imagine that there are a bunch of bubblies there at the beginning of the game. I'll explain first the game for 2 players, and then explain the solo variant. They are very similar in any case. At the beginning of your turn, some bubbly areas in the sky may be empty, in which case you simply draw new bubblies from this bag until you refill that area, and suppose that this is the situation. After you do that, then what you can do, don't have to, is to switch 2 bubblies in the sky. You can switch them horizontally or say vertically like this, but not diagonally. Then you choose 2 bubblies that are adjacent to one another, horizontally or diagonally, and you drag them down in your area. Suppose I want to do this, like this, or I could alternatively do that, or this, so diagonal, I mean horizontally or vertically, and I do this. If after I drag down 2 bubblies, now they form a line or a group of at least 3, and again, orthogonally only, then I remove those and I place them in my scoring area. Also, I get to activate a power depending on the color. Different bubblies have different colors. It is also possible that by pulling down things, I was able to create multiple groups and setting up just such a situation. But I'm setting up like this because it is more fun. So suppose that there's a situation. After I do all that I have to do, there are also these black bubbles that don't really count as bubblies. So that is, even if they form sets, they don't get away. They simply clutter your area. So suppose that as I move my things, I form multiple groups. Then first I score these 3 and I activate the green power. Then, since it's gravity, those also fall. They form another group of 3, and I also get to use those powers. Those powers, no matter how many times you play a game, you will have to reference, because it's the display rate here in the rulebook. There's also an abstract version of that play rate in the box itself, but it's, again, this is what they do, but it's pretty abstract, and really you can memorize, I guess, but it's not all that easy because there's no thematic connection. It's not like when you're playing a war game, oh yes, trees give you cover, that makes sense. Here's like red does that, so you have to remember what those are, or look at the play rate every time. If you score a group of red balls, you can swap 2 adjacent bubblies on the opponent's planet, because as you're doing, of course, the opponent is also trying to do the same. Oh, let's speak about how you win. You continue like this until you can't refill the sky, and at that point, you count how many bubblies you have. Each bubble is a point, and you see who won the game. Thus, you swap adjacent bubbles on the opponent's planet. Can be really annoying. The game is so cute. Look at these smiling guys. But it can be really confrontational because you're messing up the setup of the opponent a lot. Purple, if you score a purple group, you may send one of your free bubblies, that is, that you'll be able to move, that is not blocked by other bubblies on top of it, to the same columns of the opponent's planet. For example, I can send that one here. Now again, I'm blocking, annoying the heck out of my opponents. With the blue, I can send a bubbly from the opponent's half of the sky zone to the same column of that opponent's planet. Basically, I'm making bubblies fall on their, drop on their planet, again, with the idea of destroying what they are trying to do. I can swap 2 bubblies on my own planet, and that could be very interesting because then I may be able to score stuff. Say I'm using that power from a previous situation, and hooray, now I'm scoring the blue. Yellow. Yeah, I may send one of my free bubblies, again, with nothing on top of it, to my scoring area, which can be good, again, because maybe I'm freeing something and then if things fall, I can score them, I can get rid of these annoying guys. That's one way of doing it. And so, this is how the game works. It's pretty confrontational. Don't be tricked by how cute these guys are. It can be really cutthroaty, and it's really important to mess up the board of the opponent also because there's another victory condition, which may be the game may be shorter if in fact one of the 2 players is stuck. They cannot possibly add more bubbly to their areas because their board is so messed up, and then they lose the game and the opponent wins immediately. That's another way the game may end. So it can be very confrontational. I personally enjoyed it. I think it's a nice little abstract puzzle. Again, if you don't mind, just take that element. I like the components. I look at the components. The flow is pretty fast. It's a puzzle, yes, but it shouldn't lead to much analysis paralysis simply because the options are not many when it comes to what's available in the sky. When it comes to the switches that you can do, some things will be obvious, so why would I want to create a switch and drop things in a way that doesn't benefit me at all? So you have a limited number of choices that you can do each time, and that is, I would say, it's just nice. You're in the Goldilocks range when it comes to choices. Not too many that becomes overwhelming, analysis paralysis, and not too simple to on autopilot. And sometimes it's also nice to plan ahead. I'm gonna move things around and do 2 turns ahead, trying also to get a sense of what the opponent is trying to do, because the opponent maybe sees obviously what I'm trying to set up and then messes up with me in some ways by taking a bubble on my side directly by using a game effect. So there's a little bit of planning, but overall it feels it's more tactical than strategic because, again, there are just so many ways of changing the situation on your board and in the sky using game effects or using regular game procedures that you pretty much have to react to what appears there, to what you see is taking shape. It's about grabbing opportunities, like you grab the bubbles, and only occasionally, to an extent, building maybe a turn ahead. So I personally like it. I think it's a nice, simple, clean filler. Again, it's a couple, I don't know, it's for 2 players. I don't know if it's a couple game, because there is just so much take that and destroy what you're doing that I'm afraid if you play as a couple, one of them may end up sleeping on the couch. That is what would happen to me if I played with my wife and I had the misfortune of winning. Now, the game also comes with a solitaire variant, which is neat. Actually, I like it very much. You set up as usual with your some black bubblies in your area here, with a mandatory initial setup, and then you choose one of 20 levels, one of 20 different configurations of the solitaire, and you set up the level basically on the other side. Suppose that I want to play the volcano level, then I'm setting that up, that situation on that side, and I don't know that I'm gonna set up the whole thing, but just to give you a sense of what it looks like. And I like the volcano, it's fun and challenging. So do you remember these black ones are really annoying because they don't disappear due to groups, so you can move them around because things under them fall, or you move them around by using game effects. So suppose this is this is what the board on the other side will look like if I'm playing solo and I'm playing and I decide to do that level. Again, here it's a mandatory setup, which is not this one, but it's not important now to give you the exact one. And here I have my side of the board, and depending on how many bubblies, black bubblies I place here, I'm choosing a different level of difficulty. The gameplay normally is just that it's only me making decisions, refilling the sky, swapping, and then dropping things, scoring things here, that is removing them, and using game effects. What am I trying to achieve is to clear the other side of the board from all the non-black bubblies. And to do so, I need to remove things, to score things here. Basically, when I'm scoring a group on this side of the board, on my side of the board, like I would do, say, in this case, I remove these ones as usual, but then I can take a bubbly of the group that they just scored and send it to the corresponding position in the column on the other side of the board. So for example, right now, the volcano being what it is, I need to remove that yellow one first. And so it's about placing yellows, but not just that. I cannot just place 3 yellows anywhere. I need to place them in a way that I can send them. So suppose then next time I'm gonna score 3 yellows here, I take a yellow and I send it on that side, and then again click that, freeze that area. So it's a little more complicated and convoluted because you're setting up the sky. So you can send them here, score them, and then send them on the other side to score them there too, and remove them to clean up that area. But I like the fact that you have different levels and they really play differently from one another, so you have different puzzles. And once you start getting the idea, get the game and the mechanics become familiar to you, it doesn't feel convoluted at all. This is a variant in which you have more planning, of course, than in the 2-player version, because now, although there is still randomness, I don't know what I'm gonna get here, you're planning ahead. Okay, I need to move these 2 here so that then next time I can send that ball there, and I'm setting up possibly that situation so that I score that one, I send that other ball, etc, etc, etc. So yeah, more planning, of course, is better if you do several services with one trip. By switching these 2, I'm not just preparing a certain drop, a certain scoring, but 2 of them. So there is that planning element, which makes the game much more dry, but I found it surprisingly addictive. I started playing just, let's see how the solo mode is. And before I realized that almost 2 hours had gone by, I had played through several modes. So I find it to be very pleasant. Again, it's an abstract puzzle, but the experience of playing with these material things, to me, it's fun. It's more work than if I were to turn on my phone and play a nap game with the same idea. But I stare into my phone, I stare into screens for long enough that I'm happy to take breaks. And I'm happy to have a game that is pretty fun. It's simple, clean, nice, and it also has what I find to be a pretty effective solo version that I can play when no one is around, or people are around and is more than another person. So it's, you know, it's game night and it's not just 2 people, or it's not just the kind of person that will like the simple, basically very abstract game. Bubbly Pop, very simple, very linear, with a couple of maybe a little bit fiddly things about the game effects, but those really are fun once you become familiar with them and you start implementing them correctly. They really add a lot to the game. So in general, a game that I found quite pleasant.